I'm Rachael Caulton. I've been a performer for 10 years. I'm currently self-represented and in a lot of short film at the moment. So hopefully you will see me in some of those soon. Thank you. Emma?
Hello, I'm Emma Spurgin Hussey. I'm an actor and occasional writer, and I am represented by Teresa at Filmcast Cornwall and Southwest, and mostly at the moment narrating audiobooks and doing simulated patient work. Rory.
Hello, I'm Rory Wilton. I'm a stage, film, television actor. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years. Yes, you've seen me on telly and all sorts of different things and in films. And I too am doing quite a lot of simulated patients work for the NHS right now. Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spink. I'm self-represented. I've been acting since 2015, done a lot of short films, and I'm about to start filming a feature film in 2 weeks. John.
Hello, my name is John Michael Foulger. I'm represented by Mary Liz Management, and I've been playing this game for what seems like an eternity. At least 4 of these lives, anyway. You will know me for the big screen, the small screen, stage, and commercials. Haven't done radio yet, working on it. I think that's enough for me. Angela.
Angela Elliott. I've been a scriptwriter and novelist for 35 years. I am represented by Julian Friedman at Blake Friedman, and we love reading new scripts. So this one is For King and Country by Peter J Herron. Just scroll forward. Fade in exterior London street day. Aidan Lane is a classically tall, dark and handsome man in his mid-40s, wearing an expensively tailored yet bedraggled suit, a trilby and dark sunglasses. Smug and unerringly confident, he strides purposefully towards the entrance of a seemingly ordinary office building. Attached to the outside of the building is a large brass plaque that reads, Lie, Cheat and Steal, Public Relations. Interior, Lie, Cheat and Steal, Office Day. Lane enters a large office space filled with young ladies busily typing away on their computers. His entrance is met with the girls all looking up in unison and smiling. Hands on hips, he surveys this sea of beautiful faces, nodding confidently to himself as if he could have any woman in this or any other room. However, as he walks through the central aisle of the office, with each line of girls he passes, their faces change to a myriad of negative reactions. Some do the fingers down their throats gesture, others do the what a wanker gesture, while the rest just look at him with disgust and contempt the second they pass his gaze. As he was reaching the last line of desks, a plain-looking girl with Coke bottle glasses and slightly bucked teeth stands up from behind her desk and starts to walk in his direction. As she is approaching, he is initially hyper-focused on her large breasts, but eventually begins to look up, expecting an equally appealing face. When he finally sees her face, he can't I think there should be a stop there. Can't stop himself from recoiling in animated disgust before quickly composing himself, and seemingly pretends to be looking at his watch while shielding his eyes and gagging slightly. Just as the girl is about to vocalize her disdain for him, he lowers his hands from his eyes, still desperately trying not to look at her, and presses a button on the side of his watch that instantly fires a dart at her. The look of disdain drops like an avalanche from her face as she clutches the side of her neck and falls back over a desk. As he is about to exit the room, he is forced to stop as he is still gagging a little. He bends over, taking fast and deep breaths as if he's hyperventilating. Again, he composes himself by taking slow and measured breaths before nodding to himself that he's okay. As he exits the office behind him, a group of girls are gathered around the girl he attacked as one of them administers CPR. Interior Lie, Cheat and Steal office hallway day. Lane walks down a hallway filled with doors. He approaches one that has a sign on it that reads, Danger, do not enter. He thrusts his thumb up and grins at the sign. A beam of light emits from the letter O in the word not, and he scans his thumbprint. He lowers his sunglasses and leans forward. A beam of light emits from the letter O and the word do, and scans his eyeball. The sign starts flashing red and a siren starts loudly wailing. From doors either side of the door with a sign, 6 armed response police officers rush Lane with semi-automatic machine guns raised.
Freeze! Move! And you're dead.
Lane lets out an annoyed sigh and returns up the turns to the lead police officer, his sunglasses still on the bridge of his nose, to reveal his eyes are heavily bloodshot. He holds up a finger in a wait a moment gesture, then turns back to the sign and clears his throat.
Hangover mode.
The beam of light scans his eyeball again, and this time the sign turns green.
Access granted.
Elaine turns back to the police officers, who are now lowering their weapons in confusion, and smiles. He removes a hip flask from the inside of his jacket and takes a swig.
Wow, you've no idea the ordeal I had to go through for that system upgrade.
Interior dining room night. Lane sits on the phone at a dining table in a modest family home, smoking a cigarette and drinking a glass of whiskey.
Well, is it done?
Listening to the reply, he rolls his eyes before downing his whiskey.
Yes. Yep. Uh-huh. Okay. Stop crying, Jerry. Is it done or not?
Lane smiles in satisfaction and hangs up the phone. He looks to the side to reveal Jerry's wife and teenage daughter, gagged and tied to chairs, terrified and whimpering.
Relax. Daddy came through.
The two start to calm down as Lane gets up to leave. As he leaves the room, they look at each other and both let out a massive sigh of relief. A few seconds pass before Lane's head pops back through the door.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about the dog.
As Lane leaves the room again, the gagged screams of the women can be heard. Interior light sheet and steel office day. Lane winks at the police officers, then flicks his sunglasses back up his nose and enters the door, which turns out to be an elevator playing awful music. Lane looks up, clearly unimpressed. One of the officers clears his throat and taps the lead officer on the shoulder as the elevator doors close.
He knows we didn't see that flashback, right?
The lead officer turns and shrugs his shoulders as a muffled gunshot from inside the elevator can be heard. Interior M's office waiting room day. M's secretary Ponsonby sits at his desk as Lane exits the elevator. Ponsonby is a slight, sweaty and very nervous-looking little man. While he is clearly intimidated and uncomfortable in Lane's presence, he also has complete contempt for him. Lane takes off his hat and thrusts it across the office at a hat stand, but misses it completely. Instead, his hat smashes into a portrait of King Charles, which comes flying off the wall and shatters on the floor. Ponsonby looks utterly horrified witnessing this spectacle. Lane takes off his sunglasses and lights a cigarette before turning to look at him in the most nonchalant manner.
If that were the Queen, it would be considered treason, but...
He pulls out his ears, trying to do a mock King Charles impression.
What's Botany Boy going to do? Have me killed in a suspicious car accident?
He pauses and ponders this for a moment before instantly dismissing the idea.
Nah, been there, done that.
Lane sits on the corner of Ponsonby's desk, taking a large drawer from his cigarette before blowing smoke contemptuously in his face.
Any messages, Ponce?
Lane makes a point of saying Ponce deliberately and mockingly, knowing he has definitely had a lifetime of having his name mocked. Despite a slightly quivering lip and a vain attempt to defend his name, Ponsonby tries to correct Lane.
It's Ponsonby, Agent Lane, as you well know.
Lane glances at him, unmoved by his efforts, and picks up the nameplate from his desk.
Filbert Rimley Ponsonby, the third. Do you think the first two Ponces would have gave me my messages, or were they not desk monkeys?
This desperately offends Ponsonby, and once again he desperately tries to defend his name.
I'll have you know, my grandfather won his Victoria Cross as a major, leading from the front at the Battle of Normandy. And my father won his as a major at the Battle of Mount Logner, giving those gosh damned Argies a damn good thrashing.
So, you planning to fight Islamic terrorism with this?
He holds up a pencil holder in the shape of the Queen's head.
Or this?
He holds up a British Bulldog plush dog toy, which Ponsonby immediately snatches from him, and holds it lovingly to his chest as he looks up at Lane, knowing this battle is lost. Lane shakes his head in contempt.
So, messages, major fuck-up?
Ponsonby lets out a defeated sigh and starts rifling through a stack of papers on his desk.
Yes. Q has forcefully demanded that you are never to be left unattended in his department ever again.
He's probably just pissed off that I beat his high score on his Operation Haymaker game. Mind you, the graphics for those Afghanistan villages were really impressive. It's amazing what they can do with computers these days.
That was a military drone control room. You destroyed 18 villages in Pakistan.
It's got Stan in the name, doesn't it? Next.
Barnaby pauses for a moment before reluctantly nodding in agreement with him and picking up the next message.
The Foreign Secretary wants to know how he is going to explain your failed mission in Seville, the Spanish Foreign Secretary.
Excuse me, failed? We got intel from Centro Nacional de Inteligencia that they had located that traitorous secret-selling bastard Simmons in Seville and that we had authorization from the Spanish government to eliminate him with extreme prejudice on Spanish soil. Which I did. Well, you
Yes.
tell...
Yes, but you didn't just eliminate Simmons, did you?
Well, you tell that Mr. Foreign I only went to the Polytechnic Secretary Wanker that if I have an opportunity to take out the buyers, I'm going to blow them to smithereens because, goddammit, that's my job.
That wasn't the buyers.
Then who was it?
The rest of the queue? He was in a Starbucks ordering coffee.
Elaine's one stern finger loosens as he puts it up against his lips to think for a moment. I think we will stop there as that's 10 pages.
Yes.
Okay. Thoughts, Rachel?
Yeah, I've written quite a bit down for this one actually. I quite liked the sort of very opening with the character. I think it's a character that seems interesting and sort of got my eye. I love the lie, cheat, and steal thing. It's a nice bit of wordplay and comedy there. Something I am not good at, so I always don't want to give it as criticism, but I think some of the direction could be a bit more concise. I think some things could be a line where you've sort of got them in 4 lines. You could just sort of rewrite them a little bit more concisely, and then you can get more action or dialogue into your script in that first 10 pages. There's a couple of typos. Just make sure you check for those or have someone else give them a check, because I know when writing it can be hard to continually look at your own work and notice those things all the time. I liked the little hat moment. I think there are a couple of sort of comedy moments there that could be quite fun. Page 9, when they're talking about the Foreign Secretary and bits like that. Personally, there's personal preference, but I'd rather see some of that action than hear them talking about it. And I think that helps us stay a little bit more I think that will keep viewers' attention a little bit more potentially than a sort of really long conversation between them. But I'll see if my peers agree. Thank you.
Rory, what's your thought?
Well, our man Flynn, Austin Powers, yeah, I'm really not sure what we're trying to achieve with this. It seems to have been left over from the 1970s, a sort of a rejected carry-on script. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that this has been submitted to us. To be honest, it's I think it's out of a completely different age, and I don't know who the writer is hoping would possibly take this up. I can't imagine there being really any kind of market for it. It's sort of the direction. The description sounds like a comic, and I can only see it working potentially as an animation, but I don't think anybody would invest in it myself. So, yeah, yeah, Armand Flynn and Austin Powers did it a lot better. That's me finished.
Thank you, Emma.
I'm not normally unoptimistic, but I did find, I have to admit, little to love here. And similarly, I guess to you, I did wonder who it was sent by, just out of curiosity. Was it by sort of like somebody who'd read a lot of head comics and similar sort of misogynistic things in the 60s? Or is it like a teenage boy? I can't quite work it out.
I did also wonder if it was someone who was seen some of the readings and thought they'd send something in to
As a joke.
as a joke. Yeah.
Maybe realizing that some of us actually were women, or young ladies, or girls, as you prefer to call them. I was, yeah, I mean, the usual questions that I know everybody asks: where and when, format, what medium is it? Is it a cartoon? It might be that what you're trying to do is satirize this sort of, sexism and all the rest of it, which would be a good thing. If it's not, if you're sort of suggesting that it's fine, then clearly it isn't. And it's really hard because, I mean, I suppose you can get away with being not politically correct if you are really, really witty. This isn't. And I'm really sorry to be so negative about it, but I just think that there's so much aggression against women here, and posh people, I suppose. But it's just quite extraordinary to me. The other things. I mean, as Rachel says, too much description. I hate Aidan Lane. I really hope, please tell me that a hideous scrutal accident happens to him before the end quite slowly, because I really want something horrible to happen to Aidan Lane. He's vile. And I just think maybe you are trying to say that people like this are foolish and wrong and things like that. Good. But how do you get us to realize that from the first 10 pages, which is quite often what producers and people will give you to prove your point? And I'm just thinking, maybe if you wanted to say that Aidan Lane was a shit and something ghastly is going to happen, we could set up kind of people that weren't Aidan Lane to begin with, because what we get is these sort of ranks of women who inexplicably, some of them are kind of groveling over him, and then gradually they become less grovelly. Is it because they're becoming less stereotypically attractive? I don't know, but I don't understand what the story is that is there with the women. I'm not sure of the time frame. He's in the office. He's taken these women hostage and has killed their dog or something, and then he's back at the office. Is it another day? We don't know. Is everyone in this story like him? They're very cartoony, and the only bit that was quite interesting for me, I have to say, was a bit with flashback. He said something like, he doesn't think we saw that flashback. And I suddenly thought, oh, that's gone a bit meta. That was a bit interesting. But it might have been a bit too little too late for me. Anyway, I'm sorry. I mean, Rachel, you were very kind, and I'm sure lots of people, then, well, maybe people who like it, but I just kind of, I don't feel inclined to be kind about it, because I feel sort of quite aggressed against by it, actually.
Okay, Sharon.
It seems like it's just stuck in the 70s or something, really does, or it's a really bad murder mystery, because it's obvious who done it within the first 2 pages. But yeah, the way that, is it done as, like you say, comic, or is it done as complete satire? And it's just completely having a laugh at that time period. I don't know. It didn't grab me at all, I must admit. So apologies for not being positive about this one, but yeah, it really wasn't for me, and I can't see a lot of positives in it, unless, as you say, he comes to a very sticky end very quickly.
Thanks, John.
Where to begin? It's obviously an utter and complete piss take of James Bond and Harry Palmer. And for those of you who don't know, Harry Palmer, Michael Caine, Ipcress File, fantastic film. It's definitely a complete piss take, but the fact that in the first 5 pages you have 10 spoken lines, that's just way too much description, way. And I read to page 20, and I just couldn't get into it. I'm sorry, but this is the first time I've ever read a script with this panel where I don't give a fuck where it is and when it is. And that's normally my big bug, where is it? When is it? But I don't care on this. I don't care if I never see it again. I'm sorry, but it's offensive, it's derogatory, and I will be extremely impressed if you get any major company to look at it. In fact, I doubt very much Asylum would look at the script. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it.
Okay, thank you. That's all good. Okay, I'm going to be fairly sort of clinical here, because I think maybe that's what you need. In order to make something like this work, and we've established it's a piss take of Bond and all of those, that genre. In order to make something like this work, you have to be really, really clever with it. I mean, Austin Powers worked because it was really clever. It wasn't just a spoof of the whole genre of, spy, Playboy spy things. It was really clever with it. And if you want something like this to work, you've got to be really clever with it. And that means you have to nail the format 100% right from the start, because the first thing that's going to leap off the page at people is, do you know how to write a script? And what you've got in your first few pages, where you start to set up descriptions of places and people, you've got a novel. And that's not going to run for a script. So it's got to be tight, it's got to be formatted correctly, and so that you've got, sounds are in caps, so that you haven't got expansive florid descriptions about somebody. You need name, vague idea of age, and maybe no more than 2 words describing them. And even then, you don't have to go into physical attributes. You could say something like, and this is going to bring me on to my next point, Aidan Lane, mid-40s, well-dressed, charming bastard. And that brings me on to my next point, which I was told by Alan Bleasdale, who, if you are of a certain age, you will know who he is. Fabulous writer from a few years ago now, but who said to me, your main character can be a bastard, an utter and complete bastard. He can be evil as hell, as long as he's a charming bastard. And he used the example of the Krays, who you don't get much more evil than that. And he said, but what redeemed them in the minds of everybody is not all the people they killed and all the crimes. They loved their mum. And that redeemed them. And what you have in your character, Aidan Lane, is you have no redeemable features whatsoever. I just don't like him. Okay? And why would you watch a film where you just really don't like the main character? Even if they're going to go around murdering people, you've got to like them as people. They're going to love their dog, or I don't get any depth to this character. And even characters like James Bond have some depth to them.
You can connect.
They have a backstory, and it comes out occasionally. And that's what, and that's what drives what they do. The other things I put were, there's no hook. So right at the start, there's nothing making us want to watch on, because there's no hook. Not in the whole of those 10 pages, not till we get to the back end of that, is there anything that we can grab a hold of. So there's nothing really. That hook should be on page 1 or page 2. There should be something that makes us go, oh, I want to know what's happening. Yeah, great. It is, whether you think it's funny or not, highly offensive these days to have your office staffed entirely by female, and to use a phrase from the 60s, dolly birds. And then to reference their breasts. I mean, come on, what planet are you on? This is just, it's not going to fly. You do realize that the people that are going to read these scripts at studios, producers, assistants, are all of an age where they don't take all that shit any longer. You know, if we don't, and we're of a certain age, sorry, Rachael, but you're probably the youngest here, but if we're not going to accept it, people younger than us are just going to go, oh no, forget that. You know, there's ways of doing it, and you've got to be clever with it. That's it, really. I think you have to think about it seriously. Where is this going? What does this guy want? What is his task? What is his goal going to be? What's, you know, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say, really. Good luck with it, and hope that's helped.